Jesus. You're a woman.
You won't tell on me.
What's your name?
Albert.
Your real name?
Albert.
Albert Nobbs.
That's a theme song. You give Albert Nobbs.
I don't know. It sounds like a song. I don't know.
It sounds like another song I'm familiar with.
I keep expecting Paul McCartney. Oh, wait. You talking about...
yeah, something on... what's that show you guys do?
It does sound like a Leog theme song.
Yeah, it totally does.
Grant on Law.
There you go. That's the one.
Albert on Nobbs?
Sure. Well, not quite. Well, but then again,
Grant on
not
Nobbs.
necessarily no.
Well, what we've got here is this is it's a film that is, how's the best way to put it? It is a actress's film. It is a film as surely as the Meryl Streep film this year was designed entirely around the fact that, hey, yay, we got Meryl Streep.
Right.
This seemed to be designed around, hey, yeah, we got Glenn Close, who to me has always been an actress as good as Meryl Streep. She's just never quite gotten as much aplomb and notices.
Well, it's almost like she's like, look, the only way I'm going to get the kind of role where I can really show what I can do is if I write it my goddamn self.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, to me, she will always be that crazy bitch from Fatal Attraction. And that is it. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's that bitch that cooked rabbits. Yeah.
Well, the thing to me is like, even before that, I always think of her as Robin Williams' mom from The World According to Garp. And now she's older playing a woman who's just like a man. I kept thinking is like, wow, she looks a lot like Robin Williams right now.
She does.
Yeah, she does.
I got that nose and the chin.
But you're right. This is the type of role that is, that you do write for yourself. And she did indeed go write this. It's based on a book called The Singular Life of Albert Nobbs, but she wrote it with a mystery writer named John Banville. And the story it takes place in Ireland in the 1910s. And right from the get-go, we see her as a man. I mean, it's actually there was enough of this film that had gone on that I wondered whether or not she was actually just supposed to be a man, and that was it was just an actress challenge. I can do this shit.
Yeah,
and I want to start doing action movies.
Wow, you impressed me.
Die Hard 5 with Glenn Close.
It's like looking at every man and I'll show you.
She does indeed look like a man in here, and
What you said.
that dude.
It's one of those things where I was like, wow, would you ever compliment her? I was like, wow, you played a man great. You even looked like a fucking man.
That lady looks like a dude.
Yeah, you look like my grandfather.
But,
It's makeup, darling. Trust me.
But the idea here is that she is living in an economy that's really, really tough. It's hard still for a woman who's on her own to be able to make enough money to have a decent living at all. And years ago, she made the decision that she, in order to be in the service industry, was going to pretend to be a man because she would be able to get jobs that otherwise she would be denied.
Yeah, it's a harsh time where being a woman sucks. I mean, I don't think being a woman has ever been a picnic, but it's a time when it's especially hard because your husband leaves or dies, you just kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And she just goes like, you know what? I'll just become a man. And she puts on such a great performance, not just Glenn Close, but Albert Nobbs, him herself does, and everybody just buys into it. Okay, it's this funny little man who keeps to himself, but he does great work. So
And
why not?
When we meet her, she's been doing this for a while. She's in fact the head of this household. She actually has her own little room at the top of the stairs, as most of the staff did in those days. Can you imagine actually having the servants sleep in your house? Ew.
Well,
burn the sheets.
Those Richards were so detached they didn't care.
Those dirty bastards.
But things are shaken up for a bit when a new woman is hired. Played by Mia Wasikowska.
The girl who was Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
V.I. Warshawski.
Who, despite herself, Albert finds herself getting attached to her and becoming attracted to her, which would be difficult because even if, let's say, Mia was in fact interested, there would be a moment of reveal at some point that would be uncomfortable.
Oh, fuck no. It would be beyond the crying game uncomfortable.
Well, it's funny because this does seem to be at a time when, I don't know, the way everybody looked at sex was so very different. Because like right now, you see somebody who sort of looks like a man, it's a big deal to you. But back then, everybody's more, keep to yourself. They could get married and not have sex for a while, and they just, oh, well, it's just what they did. That shit don't fly today. But back then, you probably could have kept that ruse going for a little while.
I would have just thought about her choice in men, where I'm like, really? Are you telling me nobody's knocking down your door to get in those pants? You're gonna go for your grandfather, who sort of has like a weird kind of like
Well, but
wooden, I don't know, like wooden doll look. I don't know.
well, but also that plays into the fact that back then it was so much more about money.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, getting with somebody depending on how much money they had. It's like, you know, so many of those Jane Eyre, not Jane Eyre novels, but Jane Austen books. It's like, oh, I'm in love with the stable boy, but this one has the money that will save my family and keep us from starving.
What
so
you're saying
I guess
is
I got to marry him.
Women have been whores since the beginning of time.
Well, hey, all I'm saying is they ain't messing with no broke niggas.
Yeah.
And I'm not insinuating that, by the way. I'm just saying that's what Leon was saying.
Yeah.
What? Don't put
Damn,
words in my
Leon.
mouth.
I can't believe you.
Don't put that on me.
That's offensive.
Now,
You people should write angry messages.
Yeah.
Now, the big conflict isn't so much that Albert is in love with this other, you know, cute little servant girl, but is that a new person comes in, the house painter, to paint the place.
Yeah.
And they go like, all right, well, you can bunk with Albert. And Albert is so used to living alone where Albert can take off his bra every so often. so this is what fucks things up. Albert's like, what am I going to do?
Not just that, Albert also has a stash of money. He/she.
Yeah.
I don't even know what.
Yeah.
The,
Go with he.
The proper noun.
If you say Albert, you might as well say he.
But that's under the floorboards in his room. He's really terrified, constantly terrified that someone's going to find it, because this is ostensibly 15, 20 years worth of savings.
Yeah.
And he's at that point where he's ready to do something with it. He just doesn't know
Set up
what.
his own business.
And when he meets Hubert Page, who is staying in his room, who discovers accidentally in the middle of the night, in fact, that Albert is indeed a woman, Hubert surprises him by pulling his shirt open, and guess what? He's got boobs.
Yeah.
Janet McTeer.
No, not just boobs. I mean, we're talking double D tits.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That will fucking throw you in the stratosphere. You just when she unleashed those tits, I was like, oh my God. I was like, is this in 3D? Holy shit.
I've seen this kind of porn.
Yeah. I know, I was waiting for those fucking tits to crush a watermelon or something at some point. I was like, wow.
But
Fooled me.
Albert finds through Hubert, Janet McTeer's life, where she is married and everything to a woman who clearly knows she's a woman, but they're accepted lesbians, and they're
they made it
living
work.
the position of where he's got his own business and yada yada. He's like, wow, I could have that.
So, you married a woman?
I met a girl as lonely as myself. And we fixed up to get a place, sharing the rent and all that. She had her dressmaking, I had me work. But people began to talk, so we got married.
I could actually be happy. And since he is indeed in love with Mia, says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to court her because I actually have the money. I could be a business owner. I could be a good catch.
And now, without going too far into it, Albert discovers what it's like to actually date a woman and how expensive it is.
Yeah. I know. I was like, wow, okay, well, at least this part of the movie I can relate with. It's like you're taking this chick everywhere, and she don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're trying to buy her all kind of shit to impress her, and she couldn't care less.
Yeah.
She'd rather, fuck the kid down the street.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I doing?
Well, she's not going to go out with you at all unless you buy her shit.
I know, that's the thing. That's the big dilemma. I mean, I like this movie a lot, and I had a lot of sympathy for the character, but I especially had sympathy in those scenes. I got to sit back and go like, you see what it's like now.
Well, it's like Albert is in her 50s, presumably, right? And I have no idea. I don't know if they even actually say, but that's
they don't.
They don't.
You would guess like early 50s. Trying to date a girl in her young 20s, it don't matter if you're a girl in drag or a guy in drag or what's going on. That is going to be an awkward combination right there.
For sure.
Some people would call it creepy.
Yeah, everybody. It works for almost no one except Hugh Hefner. So he's about the only guy who's allowed.
Well, now to be fair, he dates women in their 20s, but he's in his 70s.
Well, no. There is that. Oh, apparently, that's the drop-off line where it's okay again.
What?
The demarcation point.
He sets the bar.
Well, the reason it works for you is because every time it doesn't work out, there's another one right there.
Right.
Just already. It's like, take a number.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You enjoyed this movie?
Yeah.
I really didn't. I honestly, every scene I was watching, I'm like, it seemed like it was just an excuse to her, to dress up like a man and do her acting chops, which is fine. But once they get into the story, I was like, wow, you know what? This story itself is kind of really generic. And it seems like certain issues, especially like, dealing with the character and like the struggle she has to go through as far as to keep up this ruse of who she actually is. I never for a moment thought they really explored that for what, they really could have gotten out of it, especially when she meets the other chick who's dressed up like a man, which, what was that actress's name?
Janet McTeer.
Okay, now her, when she pops up on the screen, I'm sorry, but I was shocked. And I was dumbfounded just to realize that, wow, nobody's looking at this dude and realizing it's a fucking woman. Yeah. I mean, wow, that is a woman pretending to be a man. I didn't buy her as a man at all in this film, and it really took me out of the movie. It threw me out of the movie completely. But regardless of that, the relationship, I honestly thought they should have built that up a whole lot more throughout the entire story instead of just dropping it. The relationship between the two women dressing up as men.
Oh, well, they didn't have a relationship, just a friendship.
Well, the friendship,
that's what he means. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't know, things like that where I thought, it could go more into this, but I didn't feel like I was getting ripped off. I was like, you know what? It did tell me enough. And I think that maybe that's not as much the focus of the story as I want it to be. Or it could have been a budgetary concern, because it's a small movie that I think spends its money well, and that it's totally convincing in the time it takes place.
Well, I thought the character of Hubert Page there served the purpose that she was supposed to serve, which was to break Albert Nobbs out of her rut, her routine, where there was look, always
you
the
can
same
be more
thing.
than this.
The life was a series of mundanities with tiny little dreams that were so not going anywhere that even though she had the money to go somewhere, she had no clue what she would even do if she wanted to. And so that's like Hubert Page just serves as that point where that jumping off point for Albert's character to want more out of life for all the good it
Well,
is.
that was the only part in the movie that worked for me, because as soon as they dropped that and got back into the relationship with the young chick, it seemed like, okay, this is like generic soap opera crap.
Oh, I didn't think that at all. I mean, I will agree with you that Janet McTeer, the character of Hubert, never even came close to convincing me that she was a man.
Yeah, you knew the moment she was on screen.
Yeah, the moment she was on screen.
But I don't have a problem suspending disbelief.
No, I can suspend it in as much as things change so much. We live in such a different time. And there was a time, that was only maybe 20 years ago, where if a woman had a short haircut, people would almost not know, wait, is that a woman or a man? So for back then, at the time that took place, her having the short haircut and the broad shoulders and walking around in pants and just swearing like a sailor, I could see people believing it. I mean, they didn't seem to want to investigate things because the idea of it was so odd. Like, no, that can't be a woman, because why would a woman ever do that?
The truth is, there was a secret society of women dressing up as men. They were everywhere. All of the great leaders at that point in time who were men. Nope.
That explains a lot.
That's how World War I came about.
Yeah, but that's not as good as 1850s, where they were all actually cats. But that's another movie.
Yeah, it's a different movie. Her performance as Albert Nobb, to me, I mean, it's right up there with Michelle Williams as my favorite female performance of the year. I thought, wow, she really stuck this and nailed it and had me convinced, and my heart bled for Albert. I was like, I feel so sorry for you.
I thought so too, because Albert is essentially kind of a simple man, really. He's always been very single-minded in his life and not really sure of who he was. I mean, literally not sure who he was. You couldn't be any more identity confused than Albert
it's what made him such a good servant, because he spent no time focused on himself. He totally spent his time focused on other people.
But then there's that point where suddenly he's trying to figure out the rest of the world and other people in a context that's totally foreign to him. And yeah, your heart breaks for him. This facade of constant, just stoic, as we see the cracks start to appear in it, sometimes of joy, and then ultimately of just like heartache. I really appreciated Glenn Close in this role, and in fact, I really liked the story. I thought, like, as irritated as you get with Mia's character and her
being just a typical, dumb young girl.
Yeah, I mean, you get so mad at her. It's really about watching Albert and how he just is incapable of making this make sense for him. You know, he has this vision. I mean, it's like a first time a 13-year-old falls in love. You know, it might as well.
It
be
really
the exact
was.
same
Yeah, a lot of you
thing.
Spill members could really identify with this. Trust me.
But knowing the fact that it's a woman, I'm like, come on, man.
But what difference does that make?
Yeah. I don't think women make these mistakes though. Even down to the
They're human. They make these mistakes all the time.
No, they don't. Hey, women are a lot smarter than I am, and believe me, they don't make these mistakes.
I'm not
They
arguing
laugh
that.
at. They laugh at all of it. They're probably laughing at this right now. It's like, wow, those idiots bought that.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so cute that you think women listen or get on spill.com.
Well, that's because he pays the woman he knows to listen.
That's right. You better, you listening? You better be.
I don't know. And just to be clear as well, even though you're absolutely right, there's no question that, you know, Janet McTeer is a woman first thing. I mean, you go, come on. There's only so much you can do. And I still think she gave a great performance. She's so likable in this that I really want to see her in more stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
she just
I want to see your
exudes
tits and more
charisma.
stuff. I was like,
Those are some nice boobs. I gotta say.
I want to see her in more stuff, and I want to see more of her in more stuff.
I knew she was a woman, but I didn't know that. Wow, holy shit.
yeah, she's not the hottest chick in the world, but those tits make up for everything.
The very definition of a butterface. We're going to get in so much trouble for this review.
Hey, man, you're the one seeing all the bad
And
shit.
that day, every woman left Spill.
So what'd you give it?
You know what? I actually give this a full price. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it's subtle, sure, and it is performance driven, but I was with it all the way. If I had to say anything, I felt I was a little disappointed by the ending, only because it was just unnecessary. I felt it was a little, I don't know, manipulative maybe.
I know what you
even.
mean. It's kind of like you know that's a possibility, and you hope it won't do that. And then it does. You're like, aw.
It just
thought
felt
it was-
forced.
It felt predictable to me.
Well,
just
yeah,
completely.
yeah, like something that came in to make that happen. But then I don't know. I guess the very end, I liked. I'm like, all right, I still like where it ended up. But yeah, prior to that, I was totally with it. And it is that kind of movie where I'm like, yeah, it would have been nice if they had a bigger budget and could have done more. But less is more. It got in and said what it had to. It got a tear out of me. It was one of my favorite movies of the year. Yeah, it's a full price.
Damn. Well, I'm giving it a rental only because of those huge tits that I witnessed on screen and Glenn Close. Yeah, but her performance as Albert Nobbs was interesting for the first 20 minutes. After that, I kind of got over it, and I paid attention to the story, and it just seemed predictable, kind of bottom of the barrel, like TV soap opera-ish. And I just didn't. Yeah, I did for what they could have done. It seemed like a waste of a good opportunity to really tell a story with their character really struggling about who she is. And I thought they just kind of they kind of glossed over the whole thing. And I just didn't care. I was like, yeah, she looks great as a man, but I don't care. It's a rental for me.
It definitely needed more robots from the future. Right?
More tits. I needed more tits. You kidding me?
I think you are the strangest man I've ever met.
Sleep now.